What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, colorful analyst, who was a legendary trainer, Teddy Atlas, weighs in on the highly anticipated massive showdown between undefeated, unified WBC, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Errol Spence Jr., and undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, and currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who was widely considered the number one pound-for-pound boxer in the world, Terence Bud Crawford. Now, Teddy Atlas is not so sure, for one, that Terence Crawford is still the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He says that Errol Spence is indeed rivaling that. So he says that Errol Spence is at least top 3, right? And he says that you can make a case that he's number 2, number 1, however you so choose. It's up to you. With that said, Teddy Atlas states that this fight is so big, he says this is reminiscent. He says it's taking me down memory lane because this is Sugar Ray Leonard versus Tommy the Hitman Hearns all over again. He says, and the fight needs to take place as soon as possible, but it should not take place until Terence Crawford makes a decision and ultimately exits from top-ranked ESPN with legendary promoter and CEO Bob Arum. He says that they both made it public that the relationship is a strain. He says that Bob Arum made it known that he has no real interest in promoting Terence Crawford anymore. And he stated that, Terence Crawford also let it be known wherever he was at, social media, interviews. He says anytime you put a camera in his face, he let it be known that he didn't want to be there anymore. That is not so true. But, he did hint at it when he was on Last Stand podcast with Brian Custer, that it's a possibility, his business, and he could exit, see himself leaving, if the business is right. But as far as just going public with the fact that he wants to leave Top Rank, that's not so true. Bob Arum has made it abundantly clear he could take Terence Crawford or leave him. However he so choose. He even stated that he's pretty much washed his hands of Terence Crawford, and he stated that, Todd DeBuff, his son-in-law, is that's up to him what direction he wants to go with Terence Crawford. Todd DeBuff runs things for Bob Arum. Bob Arum is ultimately the figurehead at Top Rank. With that said, I stated this on my video about on my show maybe last week that this is reminiscent of Tommy Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard, right? This is a huge fight. I said this is the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Why? Because you have two guys who are seemingly on an even playing field. And on top of that, they are both very, very highly skilled, okay? They both have high ring IQs. They both have athletic ability that's off the charts. They do it in different ways, but they both have ferocious attitudes. Their approach to it is very, very disciplined, a la Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, they get the job done in a different manner, just like Tommy Hearns and Sugar Ray Leonard, right? Tommy Hearns landed that big right hand on you, and it's good night, Irene. He had a wiry frame, a long jab, right? Sugar Ray Leonard was more, seen as more versatile. He was more flashy guy, and here we have Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, right? Terence Crawford seemed to be a knockout artist as soon as he made his debut in the welterweight division, having 5 straight knockouts, right? Errol Spence does it in a bundle of ways, right? Errol Spence mix it up. He comes on the inside. He boxes you from the outside, a la Sugar Ray Leonard, right? And, it's a huge fight because guess what? Both guys are undefeated. Both guys have the mindset of fighting any and everybody. But both guys have the mindset that they are the best. Now, I don't believe that Terence Crawford is in love with the sport of boxing like Errol Spence is in love with the sport of boxing. I think Terence Crawford is more of a competitor that is great at the sport of boxing. And so he, pushes forward with the sport of boxing. As he said on the ESPN special Relentless, if it was up to him, if he didn't have to, if he wasn't responsible for so many people, his family members and friends, that he would have long been finished with the sport of boxing. So I don't think that he's in love with it. I think he's a huge competitor. So if anybody's saying that you're better than Terence Crawford in any aspect of anything, any walk of life, he's going to challenge that. And so when it comes to the sport of boxing, people are saying, listen, Errol Spence is better than you, and he wants to challenge that. You understand? So Errol Spence, though, it wants to build his legacy from when he's long gone from the sport of boxing. He wants to be considered the best boxer to ever do it. So there's a difference in their approach from that aspect. But overall, these are two legendary guys. Terence Crawford was undisputed at junior welterweight. He's well accomplished. Errol Spence now is fought 3 Hall of Famers back to back to back. He's fought Mikey Garcia, 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer who was undefeated on pay-per-view, defeated him. He's fought now 2-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, Showtime Sean Porter. He defeated him on pay-per-view. Now he's fought 2-division former unified junior welterweight, former WBC welterweight world champion, Danny Swift Garcia, and he defeated him. And now seems to be on the verge of facing 8-division world champion, legendary, iconic superstar boxer who currently holds the WBA welterweight world champion, Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. Teddy Atlas, he touched on Manny Pacquiao fight. He says that Manny Pacquiao will more than likely get seriously hurt against Errol Spence. He says that stylistically, Errol Spence is not just a guy that just mows you down and put a lot of pressure on you. He says he's very precise in his approach. He's very technical. He has a lot of skills, so he can set up punches. He says Manny Pacquiao, 40 going on 42 years of age, doesn't stand a chance against Errol Spence Jr. He says, now you can't take anything away. You can't underestimate Manny Pacquiao because he is a legend. He is great. But, he says at 42 years old, eventually Father Time catch up with you and it rears its ugly head, and we could possibly see Manny Pacquiao get knocked out against Errol Spence Jr. But on the flip side of that, the other big fight for him would be Terence Crawford. Now, Teddy Atlas didn't allude to Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, but Terence Crawford is looking to face Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao wants the big fights. So if he don't go the route of facing off against Errol Spence, then more than likely you could see Terence Crawford pushing for the fight. Now, we understand Manny Pacquiao has last fought in July of 2019 when he defeated then undefeated WBC, WBA welterweight world champion, unified superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. He wasn't unified at the time because he lost the WBC belt due to the fact that inactivity. He had to vacate it. He still was the WBA champion, and Manny Pacquiao was impressive in that fight. Keith Thurman was young, hungry, and he beat Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman, and that's the last time he fought, July of 2019. And he's not going to fight until 2021. So he would have been out the ring at least a year and a half by the time he graced the square circle. So like myself, most people are expecting him to face 4-division world champion, Mexican superstar boxer Mikey Garcia, because he was looking to face off against UFC superstar in a crossover sport fight once again with Conor McGregor. But the WBA informed Manny Pacquiao that if he did go that route, they would strip him of the belt. He has to face somebody in the top 10 in the WBC rankings, and Mikey Garcia is number 4 in the WBA rankings. So it just makes all the sense in the world. With that said, after that, going to look to see Manny Pacquiao in a big fight. And, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence are the biggest fights he can make. I don't think that Bob Arum has too much interest in making that fight because he don't think that Terence Crawford is a draw. He don't want to pay Manny Pacquiao $25 million. He stated that he knows that Al Heyman and the PBC, he's the PBC founder and advisor for Premier Boxing Champions, paid Manny Pacquiao $20 to $25 million for the Adrian Broner Keith Thurman fights. And he said the Adrian Broner fight only did 400,000 pay-per-view buys. This is Bob Arum talking. And he was overly joyed that he wasn't stuck with the bill of paying Manny Pacquiao for a fight that wasn't successful. So he don't see Terence Crawford being a draw. He don't want to pay Manny Pacquiao that type of money, so he don't see a fight between Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao being successful and, thus seeing him get a return on his investment. He don't think it's worth it. So with that said, I don't think that Manny Pacquiao is going to go the route of Terence Crawford. But Errol Spence, according to Manny Pacquiao's team, they have contacted Errol Spence and they let him know that they're interested in that fight in 2021. So, regardless of what Teddy Atlas believes or says, it seems like Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao in unification, about 3 belts on the line, massive pay-per-view showdown, possibly take place at AT&T Stadium. Manny Pacquiao's fought there twice, in Arlington, Texas, Dallas, at the Cowboy Stadium where Errol Spence just fought Danny Garcia. So with that said, like I stated, this is a high-level chess match between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. It's two greats, two surefire Hall of Famers going at it. And yes, they're still in their prime. Terence Crawford is 33. Errol Spence is 30. But by the time that happens in 2021, Errol Spence will be 31. Terence Crawford will be 34. But with that said, Teddy Atlas says that he should leave and get away from Top Rank because Top Rank don't believe in Terence Crawford. This is a massive fight, so Teddy Atlas is under the belief it won't happen until, he says, give it 9 months into a year, 2021, and we could see Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. But I am of the same mindset that we are in and living in the golden era now, once again. I know a lot of people, it's hard to identify the storm when you're standing in it, right? It's easier to see it when you're standing out of it, meaning that hindsight, and 10, 20 years from now, when we look back on this era, you're going to see just how great these welterweights was. You have Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, you have Keith Thurman, you have Terence Crawford, you got Sean Porter, and Manny Pacquiao is still campaigning in this era. So with that said, this is the golden era. We had Hagler, Leonard, Duran, and Hearns, right? And you had Aaron Pryor. You have, you had a lot of guys, Benitez and Wilfredo Benitez, and you had a lot of greats then, and you have a lot of greats now, right? And yes, I believe that Terence Crawford and Errol Spence is the Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns. I saw a lot of people were saying to me, hey, Blue, this looks like more so of Leonard versus Hagler. No, none of these guys are as big and strong as Hagler was. He was at, he was a weight class above. He was a middleweight. And they were going up. They were essentially welterweights that went up to middleweight to challenge Marvin Hagler. It's equivalent to when Canelo Alvarez was at 160, 154, 160, and, Floyd Mayweather moved up. That's the equivalent to Marvin Hagler. Hearns and Leonard are, bred welterweights. So, it makes it their natural styles put you in the mindset. So, Teddy Atlas under belief these are all-time greats as well. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds. That's all I got for y'all, man. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shouts out to New Media. Shouts out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.